I am back and it feels great. I am so excited to be here. Jacob Penrod, fantasy author, reacting to Hamilton. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why are you, as a fantasy author, reacting to Hamilton? Well, I've heard it's really good storytelling, like, regardless of it being based on a true story. Like, you're going to have certain things where characterization is set based off of the real people, but still, narratives have to be framed in a certain way, and everything you include or don't include, and the way you frame it, it's all storytelling devices, and it comes together to make, hopefully, something compelling. So that's what I'm here to do today, is break down Hamilton and figure out what makes it tick, I guess, and react and just have a good time. Like I said, my name is Jacob Penrod. I'm a fantasy author. I've got 2 books in the works right now, 2 main ones. The first is a fantasy revenge novel called Strong at the Breaking. Picture Count of Monte Cristo meets Annie, which is a bit of a weird combination, but the other one is a direct sequel to it. Strong at the Breaking is kind of optional, and that one's called The Seven Rangers. For that one, it's you have this army of angels that attack a floating island called Amora. You can kind of picture Suicide Squad meets Attack on Titan with a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy in there. But if you are a bit of a cinephile, you know your cinema history, then Seven Samurai is actually my direct inspiration for that story. And it's just a whole lot of fun. They're both late in the process. I'm doing some big rewrites after beta reading, adding a new character, actually, which has been a big undertaking. But you know, if you write a story about a elite strike force and they don't have a healer, it's gonna kind of shine through a little bit. So thank you to my beta readers for helping me see that. But yeah, that's enough about me. Let's get into the reaction today. Now, I know very little about Hamilton or about history. So if Hamilton was in epic rap battles of history, this would be a different story. But let's just get into it with the first song, Alexander Hamilton.
How does a bastard, orphan, son of a...
I'm joking, but could you imagine? I saw this on the YouTube thumbnails, and could you imagine if I do the Animal Crossing reaction? Gosh. Okay. Let's go to the real thing. So this is Alexander Hamilton, animatic by Helia, I think, H. Let's check it out. Oh, we pause a frick ton on this channel. If that's a problem for you, you are not going to have a good time.
How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean, by providence impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar?
So that's interesting. We aren't starting with Hamilton, I don't think. We're starting with this fella here, and he's talking about Hamilton. It kind of creates this effect of telling a legend. That's really interesting. It's also interesting that he's starting with these things that aren't typically thought of as great traits. I don't know if it's setting up an underdog story or setting up a conflict between this guy and Hamilton. But what was it?
Bastard, orphan, son of a whore and...
Bastard, orphan, son of a whore. And then he throws Scotsman in there, which is kind of odd. That's really interesting because it sticks out as not being like the rest. So it tells you a little bit about world building, maybe, of how they viewed Scotsmen at the time. Or maybe he's just specifying he's an immigrant. We'll see. We'll keep going.
The Scotsman dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean, by providence impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar.
So that's interesting as well. He is listing all of these reasons why Hamilton should be a nobody, and also that he's a Scotsman. Really just sneaking that shade in there, I guess. And then also he juxtaposes it with him being a hero and a scholar in that order, which I think is interesting. Oh, is Hamilton on the $10 bill? I'm convinced that $10 bills are a myth. I never see them. Conspiracy time.
$10 founding father without a father got a lot.
Oh, that's an interesting line. $10 founding father without a father. Ooh, and it sounds nice too. But the $10 founding father without a father, giving another reason why Hamilton. Let me be careful of how I say this. I'm going to say it sloppily at first and then clarify what I mean. Giving another reason why Hamilton shouldn't amount to much, just portraying a harder or less orthodox family system, and in theory, a less supported one with what I think they're trying to portray here. Like, I think that's the intent of that line, because he's showing the strained life that his mother lived, and then the lack of a father in his life as well. But then he went on to be a founding father, which is really interesting. I hope I said that in a way that didn't sound like I was saying if you don't have a father in your life, that somehow it's lesser, because that's not how I mean it.
Got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter by 14. They placed him in charge of a trading charter.
Okay, so I don't know what a trading charter is. I'm not that smart, but this is interesting because we get our first positive traits: self-starter, smarter, working harder. And since those are the first positive things we're getting about Hamilton, I'm guessing that those are going to be what's driving him throughout this musical. Is that and maybe like determination to defy this background that's been set up for him, to show that he can still make something of himself. But yeah, smart, hardworking, and a self-starter is what we know about him so far.
And every day while slaves were being slaughtered and carted away across the waves, he struggled and kept his guard up. Inside he was longing.
So struggled and kept his guard up, using like fighting analogy to show that struggle that Hamilton is going through here. And then we also have a new speaker. This is interesting. Is it going to be a bunch of people telling the story of Hamilton before we even get to see him? In novel writing, at least, you generally want to start with your point of view character so that you can be anchored in it. And there's exceptions to this. Like, I think Way of Kings starts with seeing the main character through someone else's eyes, which is similar to what this is doing. And if you watch Brandon Sanderson's lectures on YouTube, he actually talks about why he did that. And it's to create this effect of like this legendary persona for his main character, this larger than life characterization before he breaks him down. And I think that might be what's happening here.
While slaves were being slaughtered and carted away across the waves, he struggled and kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter.
So that's interesting as well. So we know he's longing for something to be a part of. That makes sense with what we know about his background so far. He's someone without a super strong sense of home, it seems like. And so maybe wanting to prove himself because he's working hard without a strong sense of home. So we're having all these reasons that he shouldn't be amounting to what he ended up being, but it psychologically seems like it makes a lot of sense as well. Like you could see how this stuff would break someone down, but you could also see how it could like radicalize someone into being very proactive. And then also something that's interesting is the fellow was, there is zero chance he called him a fella. What is it, brother? The fella was ready to beg, steal, and barter, or beg, steal, borrow, and barter. That's interesting. That those are actions that are generally unsavory, and I wonder if that's indicative of this character's relationship with Hamilton.
Ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter.
Then a hurricane came, devastation reigned. Our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his...
Okay, so again, hurricanes, I'm going to say this anytime there's any kind of storm in any kind of media ever. 100% of the time they're a metaphor. Although in this case, I think it was a real hurricane too. But also, like from a literary perspective, a hurricane came, it's shaking everything up. I'm guessing this is going to be a moment where he goes from passivity to proactivity. Is passivity a word? I feel like it is. But you know what I mean. That's my hunch. So hurricane came along with lots of rain. What was the lyric? Devastation rain. Okay, yeah. That's interesting, keeping the water imagery from hurricane to dripping down the drain. So we're almost getting like a whole story before we even meet Hamilton, like his life story, and this is a low point. Um, and so I suspect we're going to get characterization for Hamilton, seeing how he reacts in the face of adversity. And my guess is this is going to foreshadow how he reacts to adversity throughout the narrative, if this is told concisely.
Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain.
Okay, so he's someone who handles, at least early on, handles trauma and sadness through intellect and through writing specifically here. We'll have to see if that's a through line. But it's almost like writing as deliverance or as saving him or salvation from this storm, which his whole life has seemingly been a storm up till this point.
To his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the main.
Oh, wow.
Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world's gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton.
Okay, awesome. Let's go through that. He goes... Okay, so this is interesting from a few perspectives. So they took up a collection to send him to the mainland, I think is what it said. This is both showing that his words are moving. Like, he's not just someone who writes and uses his brain when he's in a time of struggle, but he's actually doing it effectively, and it's resonating with people. But also, a way to get us to like a character quickly is to show other people liking that character. We tend to like people that other people like, just as like a psychological reflex. And there's variation between people, but as like a general rule of thumb, that's one of the quick ways you can get a reader to like one of your characters. And so showing these people believe in him and send him to the mainland, on top of all these other people talking about him, it creates this sense of status. Yeah.
Got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world's gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton.
Oh, dang it, I did it too early.
My name is Alexander Hamilton. And there's a million.
Is that the first time they say his name in the musical? That would be interesting. There's a million things, what?
And there's a million things I haven't done. Just you wait, just you wait.
So a few quick observations. It's interesting we're getting him as an adult instead of a child, which he was in the story. But also we get the sense of grandeur from these people talking about Hamilton and the things that he's done. And you get the sense like this is a person who like he did enough to be on the fictional $10 bill, but then the way he frames himself is, look at all these things I haven't done, but just you wait, which is both telling us about his character. He's someone who isn't like complacent with the level that he's achieved, and he wants more despite what he's done. He doesn't see himself as the same sort of status figure, at least right now. That's how I'm interpreting it.
When he was 10, his father split, full of it, debt. When he was 10, his father split, full of it, debt. Ridden 2 years later, see Alex and his mother bedridden, half dead, sitting in their own sick, the scent thick. And Alex got better, but his mother went quack.
Ooh, that's sad. Well, at least you got to move in with someone. So he, his father left him. An interesting parallel again with him becoming a founding father and not having a father present in his life from the age of 10. But also debt-ridden. There's financial troubles. As far as I know, Alexander Hamilton was the treasurer. Something related to the financial situation of founding the United States. And so it's interesting that he is set up as being this underdog, that's the word. This underdog in terms of his background, when we know he went on to do amazing things, but also set up to struggle with fatherhood and struggle with financial situations, when we know that that's not how he ends up, at least as far as I know. Once again, if they would just put him in epic rap battles of history, I'd have it memorized like that and we'd be good to go. But yeah.
2 years later, see Alex and his mother bedridden, half dead, sitting in their own sick, the scent thick, and Alex got better, but his mother went quick.
This animatic is very good. So interesting again because he lost another parental figure, and I believe that he was a parent as well in his life. He had a child named, oh, I know this. No, I don't. I don't even kind of know it. I don't know if he had one child, 10, or 0. Yeah, this is the history is not my specialty here. Oh, that's okay. Dang, he's losing everything. How does... Okay, but there is... Let me get through this line. Okay, so this is important. It would be easy for this to just feel like a trauma dump, which is one of my weaknesses as a writer, especially in Strong at the Breaking, the book I talked about at the beginning, the revenge fantasy story. On one of my drafts, my editor said it felt like he was on TikTok going through just the most traumatic things, and he'd swipe and it was another traumatic thing, and swipe and another traumatic thing. Trauma dumping is hard to navigate when you want to have a sad background for a character, because you want to show this character has really gone through it, but if you do too much, it loses its impact. But this still has its impact, and I'm curious how it's doing it. And my gut is that, my gut says that the layering of backstory with the story of the future for Hamilton is intentional, to where the backstory is very sad and very tragic, but we know what he becomes. We know that he becomes this figure who made significant changes, and he's incredibly proactive. Anyway, so his cousin died, and I think that we are going to see Hamilton, if it's consistent with earlier, use his intellect in some capacity. Again, trying to deliver him from that pain. I could be wrong, though.
Cousin committed suicide, left him with nothing but ruined pride. Something new inside a voice saying, Alex, you gotta fend for yourself. He started retreating and reading every treatise on the shelf.
Okay, yeah. So, sorry for pausing. No, I'm not. But this is interesting because he does turn to his brain, it seems. But also, the emotion that he feels with his cousin's death and his mother's death is, I'm sure, sadness, but also ruined pride is what he chooses to go with as a lyric. And that tells us something about Hamilton, I think, where he does struggle with this sense of home. He does have this sense of fragile pride of where he comes from, or wanting to make something of himself, and it's easy for it, well, maybe not easy, it took someone dying, but it's not stable. It's something that he has to fight for. Anyway, so he started retreating and reading every treaty on the shelf. Treatise. You gotta fend for yourself. We know this is setting up. He's that self-starter. He's self-motivated. He drives himself.
And reading every treatise on the shelf. There would have been nothing left to do for someone less astute. He would have been dead and destitute without a cent or restitution. Started working, clerking for his
okay.
landlord, trading sugar cane and rum and all the things he can't afford.
Oh, this is how it's... I have chills. This is awesome. This is how it's coming back and avoiding feeling from trauma dumping. And if you notice in my little timeline here, this is about the midpoint. Midpoint in any kind of storytelling is generally when you want to have some kind of dramatic change in your protagonist, a point of no return. And it seems like that's what his mother and cousin's death was here. Is it's showing Alex shift from being reactive to proactive. And hear it even in the music, this change in him being really committed and devoted.
Saw the shell. There would have been nothing left to do for someone less astute. He would have been dead and destitute without a cent or restitution. Started working for his late mother's land.
Hardworking again.
Sugar cane and rum and all the things he can't afford.
Oh, I'm so jealous of that writing. That's so good. Trading sugarcane and rum and all the things he can't afford. It's showing his hard work while with the same lyric showing that he's still poor. Like, he doesn't have a cent to his name, really. And that's not slowing him down. We see that this trauma hurt him, but he's pushing forward and using what he can control, his intellect, to save him. And again, it's that that theme of intellect as his deliverance.
Every book he can get his hands on. Planning for the future, see him now as he stands on the bow of a ship, headed for a new land. In New York, you can be a new man. In New York, you can be a new man.
Okay, so we're getting some repetition of in New York, you can be a new man. There's a sense of rebirth and starting new. But the fact that it's being repeated kind of flags it to me as being important as a theme. That the sense of getting a fresh start or making something of yourself is going to be a recurring theme in this.
New York, you can be a new man. New York, you can be a new man. New York, just you wait. Alexander Hamilton.
We see that determination. Oh, and everyone's singing. Ah, this is so cool. Oh, the music and everyone's singing together. I actually have chills. Okay. Okay. I love it. I love it. So we get this same effect of everyone singing about Hamilton, but he isn't satisfied with that. He's singing about, like, just you wait, there's so much I can do. He's not acknowledging what he has done. He's always hungry for more. And that's interesting. He doesn't slow down. He doesn't learn to take his time. And we get this sense throughout the song of this incredibly driven, incredibly proactive person who just wants to make a name for himself, find a place of belonging, and make a change, which he can do in New York, in theory. Yeah.
Alexander Hamilton, America sings for you. Will they know what you overcame? Will they know you rewrote the game?
So this is really interesting, both with the animatic. I'm doing the animatic instead of the actual live action because I don't want Disney to obliterate me into oblivion. But it's interesting with the music as well. We're getting little snippets of what's going to come, which I know can be more common in, or I guess more blunt in musicals than you might see in a novel. But it's really fascinating. It's kind of telling you are in for a story. And we're going to get a legend of Hamilton and how he became from this bastard orphan son of a Scotsman, you know, it may as well have been, and turning into whatever he becomes.
We'll never be the same.
Ooh, got anime kind of. So another immigrant coming up from the bottom is an interesting lyric because while it does kind of just like fit the meter, it's also showing he's an immigrant. He's someone who's looking for that sense of home. So I also think it's thematic.
Enemies destroyed his rep. America forgot him. We fought with him. Me, I died for him. Me,
Again, showing
I
how he
trusted
affected
him.
other people.
Me, I loved him.
And me, I'm the damn fool that shot him.
That puts a damper on their relationship. Dang. Okay, yeah, this is cool. This is like an entire song of foreshadowing, which I don't normally love being so heavy in stories, but this is really pulling it off.
What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton.
Dang! Amazing. I am thrilled with that. We get this, like, it's such a clear picture of who Hamilton is, and you don't understand just who he is now, but also where he came from, and I think that's going to foreshadow where he's going. And I think it's setting up key themes like his intellect and writing as a way of coping, I guess, which I think he wrote in the Federalist Papers, right? And so, like, I know that's part of his future. And so it's so interesting seeing this all set up in the song. And we see the way that he affects all these people's lives, both in how they talk about him, but also that sequence at the end where they're like, I loved him, I shot him, I fought for him, I died for him. I don't really remember who said what, and I'm going to try to keep it that way so I don't spoil myself. But maybe it wants me to be spoiled. I think it kind of does, because it creates that sense of mystery and intrigue. So, yeah, really interesting song that kind of breaks the rules in some ways, where, like, where you aren't starting with your point of view character, you're telling flashbacks, and you're doing all these things that you normally want to scatter throughout, but it's front-loading them. But with each choice that it makes to bend the rules, it offsets it in a really, really effective way to where everything is, everything worked for me in this. And each lyric is doing so many different things. I thought it was so good. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. So this is Aaron Burr, sir.
1776.
Okay. So starting with 1776 grounds us that we're no longer going through flashbacks. I think it's putting us when the actual story starts. Yeah.
New York City. Pardon me, are you Aaron Burr, sir?
That depends. Who's asking?
Oh, well, sure.
So the first line of dialogue a character has, and I think this was the singer from the last song, but in terms of the current story, the first line of dialogue a character has is really important to characterizing them. And it's interesting to me that Aaron Burr, sir, doesn't just say, yeah, that's me or anything. He's holding back. He says it depends because he's asking. He's careful. So if it was intentional, and I suspect it is with how tightly written it's been, I think even just in that line, they're setting up Burr as being a careful, guarded person who doesn't want to reveal too much unless he has control. I might be reading into it too much, but that's what I would get if I was forced to guess characterization from that one line.
Sure. Sir, I'm Alexander Hamilton. I'm at your service, sir. I have been looking for you.
I'm getting nervous.
Sir, I heard
He still didn't confirm that it's him. Yeah, they're portraying him as being careful. And Hamilton is like this enthusiastic, bright-eyed kid, essentially, with how he's coming across. And it juxtaposes really interestingly with Burr and his holding back, because Hamilton won't shut up, it seems, which I think is fun.
your name at Princeton. I was seeking an accelerated course of study. When I got sort of out
Again,
of
that
sorts
hardworking
with a
and
buddy of
academic.
yours, I may have punched him. It's a blur. Sir, he handles the financials.
You punched the bursar.
Yes, I wanted to do what you did.
Okay, so I love a pun, a little play on words, but also we see that Hamilton is still incredibly smart, incredibly driven, incredibly hardworking, and those are the three things we learned about him first. But also he's impulsive, like he's punching people to the point that it's like he doesn't fully remember the whole situation. So that's interesting as well, kind of this hot-headed ambition.
Graduating to and join the revolution. He looked at me like I was stupid. I'm not stupid. So how'd you do it? How'd you graduate so fast?
It was my parents' dying wish before they passed.
You're an
Oh, he's so interesting. He is so interesting. that face. Okay, Burr is really interesting. He's not giving anything away. Hamilton is clearly genuine and asking for advice of how he got through this, what he did. And Burr reveals something that seems like he's actually saying something, but like saying it was my parents' dying wish before they passed, that's not anything practical that Hamilton can use. He's keeping control of the situation. He's revealing just enough about himself to seem diplomatic while holding enough back that he's not giving away any secrets. This animatic is so expressive.
Of course, I'm an orphan. God, I wish there was a war, then we could prove that we're worth more than anyone bargained for. Can I buy you? I'm an orphan. God, I wish there was a war, then we could prove.
Yeah, what a lyric. I wish there was a war that we could prove that we're worth more than anyone bargained for. That's so fun. So yeah, he's naive with how hot-headed and ambitious he is. He just has this drive to prove himself, which was so thoroughly established in the last song. As much as I like Hamilton, Burr has had like 3 lines of dialogue in this song, and he interests me so much.
That we're worth more than anyone bargained for.
Can I buy you a drink?
That would be nice.
Again,
While we're talking, let me offer you some free advice.
I guarantee this advice is not going to actually be helpful. I can't guarantee that. There's been like 3 or 4 lines.
Talk less.
Ha!
Smile more.
Okay, actually, this is interesting. So talk less. He is giving advice, but he's kind of saying be more like me, because he's been very reserved in how he's talking. So I think maybe Hamilton endeared himself to Burr just a little bit, even if he's coming on kind of strong. So that's interesting, because it's not the most useful thing ever, but like he's revealing stuff.
Let them know what you're against or what you're for.
You can't be serious.
You wanna get ahead.
Yes.
Fools who run their mouths off wind up dead.
Oh, that's interesting. Whoever's saying or whoever talks next is dead. Let's see who this is.
Yo, what time is it? Show.
Yeah, he's dead. I don't know who that is, but he's a goner. Okay, so fools who run their mouths off wind up dead. Hamilton, I think, gets shot by someone, maybe Burr. But that's interesting, because we know he's not going to shut up with how he's been characterized so far. This is a case of him wanting advice, but wanting advice that he can act on, and the advice that he got was being more passive and kind of surveying the situation before he does anything, which seems to be how Burr is acting. And again, we're about the midpoint and things are changing up. This is structured like a narrative.
Their mouths off wind up dead.
Yo, what time is it? Showtime!
Like I said.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Showtime, yo, I'm John Lawrence in the place.
John Lawrence is dead. I guess everyone in this is dead now, but he's especially dead. All right, I'm John Lawrence. What did he say?
I'm John Lawrence in the place to be. 2 pints of Sam Adams, but I'm working on 3. Ha. Those red coats don't want it with me, cause I will pop, chicka, plop these cops till I'm free.
I love this animator so much. Okay, so John Lawrence, kind of like Hamilton in the sense that he's very energetic, very hot-headed, it seems like, a little bit egotistical, just really kind of coming off as youthful, I guess. He's French. I had a hyperfixation where I studied French for like 8 months and got to be very bad at it, but conversational. And je m'appelle means I am called, or my name is. And so that's the kind of hard work, or that's the kind of results you get from hard work for 8 months.
I came from afar just to say bonsoir to the king Casse-toi, who is the best. C'est moi.
Casse-toi. I think that means like break you, or so I guess it's like a screw off. So to the king, Casse-toi, I am the best. Yeah.
Who is the best? C'est moi.
Oh, who is the best? It's me.
I am Hercules Mulligan, up in it, loving it. Yes, I heard your mother said, come again. Lock up your daughters and horses. Of course, it's hard to have intercourse over 4 sets of corsets. Wow.
So all these things that they're talking about, like alcohol and achievement and like sexual prospects and things like that, it all feels very youthful and kind of arrogant compared to Burr. And so I suspect that they're really going to resonate with Hamilton's approach to things more than Burr.
Sex, pour me another brew, son. Let's raise a couple more to the revolution. Well, if it ain't the prodigy of Princeton College, Aaron Burr, give us a verse, drop some knowledge. Good luck with that. You're taking a stand. You spit, I'ma sit. We'll see where we
Again,
land.
he's so he's passive, and so that should make him feel he's passive, but he feels active, and I don't know how Lin-Manuel Miranda's doing that, but I want to learn from this. His passivity is a choice. He's actively doing nothing. Like, he's making the choice to do nothing because he's weighing his options. And my guess is that's going to be a character flaw as well as a strength.
Mission's imminent. What do you stall for?
If you stand for nothing, Burr, what'll you fall for?
Ooh. So, do they even know who he is?
Who are you? Who are you?
No, they don't.
Who is this kid? What's he gonna do?
Okay, and that's a strange place to end it. I'm guessing it's going right into the next song. So, if you stand for nothing, what will you fall for? Is that saying, like, if there's nothing you stand for, what are you willing to die for? Or if you stand for nothing, what's going to fool you because you don't have anything to ground you? I'm not sure how they're using the word fall, and it might be both, or neither. But yeah. Wow, okay. Let's keep on going. I've said a lot. My shot, and this one's a long one.
Shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but
This is yeah, so obviously the same animator. Sin, S-Z-I-N. Wow, it's so fun. Okay, gonna get a scholarship to King's College. So or did he say Princeton?
To King's College.
King's College. Okay. So this is interesting because he's bragging in a similar way, or I guess bragging or talking about what he's going to do in a similar way to the three of them, and in a way that's dissimilar from Burr. Burr was saying talk less, and now I think we're getting a 5.5 minute song about him not talking less. And so what I'm interested to see is if, just like in Alexander Hamilton, the first song, if his words are going to be able to rile people up, like it did when they took up a collection to send him to the mainland.
Brag, dag, I'm amazed and astonished. The problem is a lot of brain. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I'm amazed and astonished. The problem is a lot of brains, but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge. I'm a dominant.
Okay, so that's interesting. So he's aware of his strengths. He knows he's smart, and he's kind of arrogant, but in a likable way. I guess he's a little self-aware, but not too self-aware. I don't know. It's interesting.
A shining piece of coal, trying to reach my goal. My power of speech, unimpeachable. Only 19, but my mind is
oh, there's so much going on. So his power of speech, again, like his intellect, his speech, that's what he falls back on.
Piece of coal, trying to reach my goal. My power of speech, unimpeachable. Only 19, but my mind is older. These New York City streets get colder. I shoulder every burden, every disadvantage I've learned to manage. I don't have a gun to brandish. I walk these streets famished.
So it's talking about all these things that he's doing in connection to being on the New York streets, which we know is connected to this idea of rebirth. In New York, you can be a new person, or in New York, you can be a new man. And so we're building up by using that foundation of what they were repeating to show this is how Hamilton's been shaping himself into a new person, and it's going to just continue.
The plan is to fan this spark into a flame, but damn, it's getting dark, so let me spell out the name.
So the plan is to fan this fire into a flame, spark into a flame. So that's interesting because it makes me think of his passion, where we've seen him start kind of smaller, be dimmed down, and then fire up. But also, I think he's talking about his immediate plan here, where he sees the spark of passion in the three young men that came in. And I think his plan immediately is to try and rile them up and get them kind of thinking the same as him. So I think that's doing two things at once.
I walk these streets famished. The plan is to fan this spark into a flame, but damn, it's getting dark, so let me spell out the name. I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-D.
Yeah, look, they're singing along with him. He's riling them up.
We are meant to be a colony that runs independently. Meanwhile, Britain keeps shitting on us endlessly. Essentially.
Okay, so what he's doing is he riled them up. He spoke to their passion talked himself up a bit, and now he's getting into his politics or his actual thoughts. And my guess is that the effect is going to be just like it was in Alexander Hamilton, where he's brought people over to his side.
Relentlessly. Then King George turns around, runs a spending spree. He ain't never gonna set his descendants free. So there will be a revolution in this century. Enter me.
He says in parentheses.
Don't be
That's cool. Okay, so enter me, he says in parentheses. That's stage instructions, which I think is doing two things at once. First off, Hamilton is someone who says the quiet parts out loud. Like, he doesn't shut his mouth. But also, also, like, he's announcing himself. Like, he doesn't need others to do it for him, and we've seen that he's self-driven. What was that? It was like a ghost on his shoulder, right after his cousin died, moved in with the cousin committed suicide. A voice saying, Alex, you've got to help yourself, defend yourself, something like that. Fend for yourself. And that's what we're seeing come back here. So it's a through line through the songs.
shocked when your history book mentions me. I will lay down my life if it sets us free. Eventually you'll see my ascendancy.
Which we know he does do is he lays down his life. He gets shot. And so that's interesting. Eventually you'll see my ascendancy. It's kind of elevating himself, literally, like that's what the word is doing, is talking about him being elevated, but also it kind of makes me think of like his spirit being elevated because he dead. But yeah.
Not thrown away my shot. I am not thrown away my shot. I'm just like my
Yeah, so just one voice right now, echoing my shot. But if it's like a lot of other songs are, my guess is it's going to build up and he's just slowly inciting all three of them.
I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Oh, whoa, that almost slipped by me.
I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry.
I'm just like my country. What is his country? Is it America? I think that's what he's talking about. But that's interesting because a theme throughout his life has been not having a home. And so now that he has one, it seems like he's really latching onto it and characterizing it as being like himself, projecting himself onto it and wanting to improve it. That's interesting. He could also be talking about where he came from. They said, don't forget from where you came, from whence you came. I don't think he is. But regardless of what it is, it's showing that he's got this sense of home that he's very romanticizing.
And I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my
Yeah, and then the other people are coming in. He's riling them up.
shot. I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. It's time to take a shot.
I dream of life without the monarchy. The unrest
Yeah,
fully-
okay, this is so cool. So he said his thoughts, Hamilton said his thoughts, and now he's pulling them from other people. He's building this, he's fanning the spark into a flame, like he said. Oh.
I dream of life without the monarchy. The unrest in France will lead to anarchy.
And setting up France, unrest going on there as well. My guess is that's being brought up now because it's going to be important later.
Anarchy. How you say? I use anarchy.
I think the French word for anarchy is anarchie. And so that's a fun little detail. I could be wrong.
How you say? I use
French is just English with an accent. That's going to offend someone. What I mean is the vocabulary is a lot easier once you learn how the words are pronounced and realize you have to drop 60% of the letters. I love French. I do. Don't let my words dissuade you.
When I fight, I make the other side panicky with my
Yo, I'm a tailor's apprentice, and I got y'all knuckleheads and local parentis. I'm joining a rebellion, cause I know it's my chance to socially advance. Instead of sewing some pants, I'm going
Okay.
And but we'll never be truly free until those in bondage have the same rights as you and me. You and I do or die. Wait till I sally in on a stallion with the first black battalion. Have another shot.
This is so interesting. Like, he's riled them up pretty effectively. And I bet Burr is going to try to bring it back down because he wants to stay neutral, or at least get his bearings.
This is lower your voices. You keep out of trouble and you double your choices. I'm with you, but the situation is fraught. You got to be carefully taught. If you talk, you're gonna get shot.
Bird, check what we got. Mr. Lafayette, hard rock like Lancelot. I think your pants look hot. Lawrence, I like you a lot. Let's hatch a plot blacker than the kettle calling the pot. What are the
That it's so interesting because he doesn't know these people at all, as far as I know. Yeah, he doesn't, because they said, "Who are you?" But he's already he's flattering them. He's building them up. He's so gifted with his words at inciting people to action.
Odds of gods will put us all in one spot. Pumping a squad of conventional wisdom like it or not. A bunch of revolutionary manumission abolitionists. Give me a position, show me where the ammunition is.
So that's an interesting double meaning. Give me a position, show me where the ammunition is. That's like military language. Give me a position, like a squadron, as far as I know, and show me where literal ammunition is. But also he's saying to Burr, like he's trying to appeal to this passive side of him. Give me a position, show me what you stand for, and we're gonna make something of it. Like he's excited, he wants to do something, but I'm guessing Burr isn't going to respond to that. And I don't know if that's gonna piss him off or make him kind of down. But yeah, oh, that's an interesting. The lyrics are doing so much with so little.
Oh, am I talking too loud? Sometimes I get overexcited, shoot off at the mouth.
Yeah,
I
so
never
self-conscious.
had a group of friends before. I promise that I'll make y'all proud.
Let's get this guy in front of a crowd.
Yeah, this is exactly what happened back at his home. Is he got in front of his people, using his intellect, and everyone is riled up now. And I bet this feels great for Hamilton because he wants that sense of belonging. So now their acting is like, there's like this tier system where it's Hamilton, and then he's got those friends beneath him, and then they've got all this public beneath them. They're building the revolution in real time. So it's both like rise up against oppression, but also rise up, like take a stand. And if this is following the pattern from earlier, I'm guessing more and more people are going to join in with this refrain. I don't know if it's a refrain. Yeah. So that's interesting as well, the way they layered this. He starts personal, starts small, rise up when you're living on your knees, rise up. But then he goes bigger. When are these colonies going to rise up? So it's both showing methodically like a strategy of getting the people incited so you can cause a bigger change of events, but it also creates this feeling, like a visceral feeling of things getting grander.
I imagine death so much it feels more like a memory. When's it gonna get
Oh,
me in my sleep?
that's a good line. I imagine death so much, I think that it's a memory.
Imagine death so much it feels more like a memory.
It feels more like a memory.
When's it gonna get me in my sleep? 7 feet ahead of me. If I see it coming, do I run or do I let it be? Is it like a beat without a melody? See, I never thought I'd live past 20.
I don't blame him, given like where he came from and the things that he went through. It makes so much sense that death would be constantly on his mind. It's almost like he's outrunning it. Like he feels like he has to cause this change and make something of himself and leave this legacy because he doesn't know how much longer he has left.
Where I come from, some get half as many. Ask anybody why we living fast and we laugh, reach for a flash. We have to make this moment last. That's plenty. Scratch that. This is not a moment, it's the movement where all the hungriest brothers with something to prove.
And then he pulls himself out of it to start inciting again.
Oppose us. We take an honest stand. We roll like Moses, claiming our promised land.
Oh, that's interesting. Is the allusion to Moses, who is this person who like delivered people to freedom, but also Moses wasn't his right-hand man named Aaron. That's interesting. And Aaron was more gifted at words. Gifted at words.
Win our independence. Is that a guarantee of freedom for our descendants? Or with the blood?
guaranteed freedom for our descendants. He's thinking about his legacy. He doesn't even care as much about his own life as he does what he can make of himself.
We shed begin an endless cycle of vengeance and death with no defendants. I know the action in the street is exciting, but Jesus, between all the bleeding and fighting, I've been reading and writing. We need to handle our financial situation. Are we a nation of states? What's the state of our nation? I'm past patiently waiting. I'm passionately smashing every invitation,
that's
every
so
action,
good.
and act to handle our financial situation.
So
Blood we shed
he's talking about how to change his legacy. He wants it to be better, and he's reflecting on both life, which he had a rough relationship with his mother and cousin dying, but also on his financial situation. He grew up incredibly poor, and so we see that that's one of the things that he's wanting to change, kind of break that cycle.
Jesus, between all the bleeding and fighting, I've been reading and writing. We need to handle our financial situation. Are we a nation of states? What's the state of our nation? I'm past patiently waiting. I'm passionately smashing every expectation, every action's an act of creation. I'm laughing in the face of casualties of sorrow. For the first time, I'm thinking past tomorrow.
Yeah, again, thinking past tomorrow. He's thinking long term about his legacy. And now it seems like everyone's going to be incited in singing along. Yeah. Yeah, so everyone is incited now. Dang. Wow. This animator is so cool. And oh, that's fun. They had 50K subs now, and now they have 769,000. That's incredible. Yeah, wow. So that showed us, like, not only was it a great song, but it showed us Hamilton's effect on people with his words and how he talks. That he's someone who, when he's faced with challenge and adversity, he relies on his words, he relies on his wit, but he actually gets stuff done, and he's good at it. And he's hot-headed, he makes impulsive decisions, and that can be kind of a flaw for him. But also the fact that he's hot-headed, the fact that he's making these decisions, means that he's able to get this visceral reaction out of people. Even out of Burr, who seemingly wanted to keep his cards close to his chest, he was getting Burr to give genuine advice, even if it was kind of lukewarm. And he saw this potential in people and was able to fan it into a flame and make it passionate. That's so cool. Okay, that's where we're going to call it for today, about 50 minutes. But yeah, wow, I'm excited to keep going with this. I'm not sure when I'm going to be posting the next one, but I'm going to try to do 3 or 4 songs each time, depending on how long they are. But yeah, I loved this. Fun times. Fun times. Lots of sad times, actually, with revolutionary thinking and death and but fun times, you know. Anyway, I'll see you next time.